Professor Franks, let me ask you, I listened to your and Ms. Hemingway's testimony and Professor Turley, so I got part of it. As I understand it, your position, Professor Franks, is that, I think you used the word myth. It is a myth that the Biden administration used government to compel speech, private speech, but that the Trump administration is doing that. Is that a fair characterization?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Do you think perhaps you're allowing your personal political beliefs to affect your objectivity here?
No, I do not. What is guiding my answers here is that I'm looking to see what the Supreme Court has said. You notice that in the testimony about the censorship industrial complex.
I got that part.
No, I just want to clarify.
No, but I've only got 5 minutes.
What you're about to witness is a complete evisceration. Kennedy just exposed a radical law professor who called the Supreme Court white male supremacists and said the majority of Americans hate women. But wait until you hear Kennedy's absolutely savage final line that left this professor speechless. This is going nuclear.
Your answer is no, as I appreciate it. Let me ask you a couple questions. You wrote a law review article in December of 2023 for the New York University Law Review, and it was about the two cases, Bruin, Supreme Court case, and Dobbs. Remember that article?
Yes, I do.
Okay. In this article, you said, I'm going to quote your words, "Taken together, these two cases demonstrate that the Supreme Court has embraced the use of the Constitution as a tool of racial patriarchy," end quote. Did you say that?
Yes.
Okay. And then you went on to say, quote, "When the Supreme Court declares that there is a constitutional right to armed self-defense in public, it openly embraces and promotes a culture that privileges white men's ability to terrorize and kill those that they perceive as threats," close quote. Did I read that correctly?
I believe so. Thank you for reading.
Okay. And did you also say in that article, I'm going to quote again, quote, "by simultaneously expanding white men's right to kill and constricting women's right not to die, this Supreme Court," referring to the current United States Supreme Court, "has turned the Constitution into a homicide pact as well," close quote. Did you write that?
That sounds like me.
Okay. In November of 2024, you tweet, don't you?
I'm not sure what the current terminology is for it, but yes, I am sometimes on the social platform that was formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah, you're on a lot, aren't you?
I'm not sure what the relevance of that is.
You try to be provocative on there, don't you?
Again, I'm not sure what the relevance
Well,
of this question is.
let me show you the relevance. On November 7th, 2024, from your tweet, here's one of your tweets at 2:41 p.m., quote, "The majority of Americans hate women. The majority of Americans hate women more than they love anything, including democracy," close quote. Did I read that correctly?
I am not sure what this has to do with the subject matter of this
Did you
hearing.
say it?
I do not have those words in front of me. I probably said something along those lines, but
Yeah,
what is
you
the
said it.
relevance of
Here
that
it
to
is,
this
big as
hearing?
Dallas, right there.
Yes.
But your political beliefs don't impact your feelings about President Biden or President Trump.
I don't have feelings about either of them. What I have
Sounds
is
to me like you have your favorite feeling is anger. Let me ask you this. You issued another tweet. This was in May of 2022. You've just been tweeting up a storm. You said, quote, "There's a reason why the conservative-dominated Supreme Court thinks the Constitution does not contain a right to an abortion, but is convinced that it contains an individual right to possess firearms. And that reason is white male supremacy," close quote. Did I read that correctly?
Is there a question in this?
Did I read that correctly? That's
Is there
my
a question that is relevant to this hearing?
Did I read that correctly? Do you really think that the United States Supreme Court, you're an officer of the court, is guided by white male supremacy?
I believe that the First Amendment prohibits the president
Did you
and other
say
state
that?
officials for punishing people for
Did
their
you honestly say that, Professor?
I
And you
believe
expect us,
that the First
as a
Amendment,
Democratic witness, to take you seriously? Are you kidding me?
I believe that you should take
You
the First
heard of
Amendment
curb your
seriously, sir.
enthusiasm? Here's my saying, curb my nausea.
This isn't just a hearing. This is Kennedy performing a public autopsy on radical academia in real time. And Professor Franks just became the poster child for everything wrong with our legal education system. Watch Kennedy's methodical destruction unfold. He starts simple. Your position is that Biden didn't compel speech, but Trump is... Gets Franks to confirm her bias up front. Sets the trap. Then Kennedy does what he does best. He lets the radical speak for herself. But he doesn't just mention her writings. He makes her own them word by word. The Supreme Court has embraced the Constitution as a tool of racial patriarchy. Think about that. This is a law professor saying our founding document is racist. But it gets worse. White men's right to kill and constricting women's right not to die. The Supreme Court has turned the Constitution into a homicide pact. This woman literally called the Supreme Court a murder conspiracy. And Democrats brought her as their expert witness. Kennedy's not done. He moves to her Twitter account because these academics can't help themselves online. The majority of Americans hate women. The majority of Americans hate women more than they love anything, including democracy. Watch Frank's response. I'm not sure what this has to do with the subject matter. She's trying to dodge her own words because she knows how insane they sound. Kennedy's comeback is surgical. It's big as Dallas right there. Translation: your bias is obvious to everyone. But Kennedy saves his best shot for the Supreme Court attack. That reason is white male supremacy. Kennedy's response is perfect. Do you really think the United States Supreme Court, you're an officer of the court, is guided by white male supremacy? Franks can't answer because any response destroys her credibility. Say yes, she's a radical. Say no, she's contradicting her own writings. Kennedy's final line is legendary. You heard of curb your enthusiasm? Here's my saying, curb my nausea. That's not just a clever comeback, that's Kennedy expressing what every normal American feels about radical academia. This professor represents everything wrong with our universities: hatred for America, contempt for our institutions, and complete detachment from reality. Democrats brought this woman to defend their censorship policies. Instead, Kennedy turned her into an advertisement for why Americans don't trust the academic establishment. This is exactly why Kennedy is the most effective senator in Washington. He doesn't just ask questions, he exposes the radical ideology infecting our institutions. If you want more moments like this where Kennedy takes down the woke establishment, absolutely destroy that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Drop a comment. What was more shocking, calling the Supreme Court white supremacists or saying Americans hate women? This is unreal.